We met the other day, introduced by my friend Luca, and he told me you have to meet this girl. She's doing amazing stuff, and you have to talk to her because I want to share stories like yours with the world. So you are the CEO of For the Unseen, right?
Yes.
So who are the Unseen?
Everyone that's unseen, essentially, obviously. My particular focus on the unseen is like anyone in developing countries mainly, because those are the ones that are not seen in the world, and we know that because of media. As we all know, like media doesn't put much attention to certain things that happen that are as important as other things, and I won't get too detailed on it, but depending on the region or the culture, that ends up being more of a priority or more of importance, and I like to change that. I'm trying to make it so that we're all seen and we're all known and we're all recognized, because we're all human beings. So
but you're very focused on the Syrian refugees, right? That's your
yes, so far, yeah. Well, when you sneak inside of a war zone and you go into a country and you meet the people and you spend time with their children and you learn of the culture and you see the suffering that they're going through, and unfortunately to date it's the worst humanitarian crisis ever to have existed. So that's where I started, and I'm still there, and I've done other projects as well, but it's my primary
How did
project.
you get there? Because like you're a California girl, right? So
yes, California girl.
what happened? When was the eureka moment that you just said, "Fuck this, I'm going to Syria"?
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's always just one moment. There's little things that lead you to this big thing. And so I had little things happen, like I walked in on my best friend as he was dying, and that was a big breakthrough moment personally for me. Another thing happened was a girl that I was very close to told me of what was going on in Syria, and she's Syrian. And I will admit, I didn't even know where Syria was on the map. So I thought to myself, what? People are being treated unjustly? For me, lack of justice is...
Is that your strongest value, justice?
And diversity, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and they together. They have to be together, you know?
Yeah. And also you have Iranian origins, right?
Yes.
So
yes, Iranian American, technically.
Did that have anything to do? Like, did you feel connected
Of course.
to the Middle East in any way?
The connection was not even the Middle East necessarily in a cultural, although when I was inside Syria, I was able to connect because of the cultural similarities.
Yeah.
It was that my parents were immigrants and they fled their country due to a mistreatment.
Yeah.
They fled because my parents are Baha'i, and the Baha'i faith is prosecuted every day in Iran up until even today. But my core beliefs and diversity, oneness of humanity, oneness of men and women, and another one is self-investigation of truth, that each of us have to discover what is truth to ourselves, what we desire. That's all the principles of the Baha'i faith, technically.
Yeah.
So.
And you told me a lot when we met. I asked you like, why did you feel that mission? And you told me a lot about service, right? Like
service
you
is
had
a big
this education of. Does that come from religion? Does that come from your parents?
It's both. It's my parents and who they are. That's who they are. They believe in giving to people that are less fortunate, no matter what. Like it's. I would say for them, it's far more of just a part of who they are as human beings, maybe a part of the culture, Iranian culture, and also just a part of their story, of their journey. You know, they fled Iran, they went to New York, the way they survived there, the way they went from there to California. So.
And how did they feel about you going there? Like, you know, because
that's the question.
Yeah,
it's a good question. When I first told my father, and so I was like, Dad, I'm gonna go to Turkey. And I'm going to go to the south. And I didn't tell many people this then, but I was like, I'm going to help the refugees, the Syrian refugees. And I looked at him and he stared at me. And then I said, and I'm probably going to sneak inside of Syria. Yeah, and he just was quiet and he stared at me and he had tears well up in his eyes. And he said verbatim, and I remembered it, I'm forgetting all of a sudden, he said, he had tears, and I realized the tears were of like joy, of pride, and he said, I would do the same thing. And then he goes, don't tell your mother I said that.
And then what happened? So you went to Turkey first, right?
Yeah, well, I flew into Istanbul, straight away flew into Gaziantep into the south. And then we went there because I had a contact there from the Syrian American girl that I was friends with. I had a contact there, and we went to go help them. But when I arrived there, my friend I was traveling with, Nesreen, she's Syrian American, she was translating. I don't speak any Arabic. We went there, we looked around, and I just didn't feel like it was right. And I told her, tell him we're going to come back, we're going to go eat. And she's like, what? I'm like, tell him we're going to come back to continue talking, then we're going to go eat. So we walk out, and I'm walking fast, and she's like, what's going on? And I'm like, we're not helping them. She's like, what? And I go, they have help. And she's like, no, they don't. I go, Nasreen, when you were walking ahead, I took a left turn into the building, and I went into 2 different rooms with so much food, so many books, so many supplies. I'm like, those refugees are going to be fine.
And was that where was that organization from? Was it American?
No, it was a Syrian-based organization that was getting help. And the thing is I don't blame them, and they're not bad people. So I want to put that on the record, like they're not bad people.
Yeah.
They're just in a state of stress, and they're in a state of panic. And I had this need of just going inside of Syria. We have to go inside. So we left, and we took a bus. Like, we literally asked someone on the street, which bus is gonna go south? And the guy's like, that one. And I'm like, let's go. And she starts crying. And she's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. I'm like, let's go. We're going further south. Money. I had 15,000.
Why did you feel that need to really go there?
Because I didn't believe the media. Because the media is not accurate. It's still not accurate. It's not. The media is never accurate. Ever, ever, ever.
What is happening there that we are not seeing? Like, what is unseen? What did you see and you want to tell the world?
Well, for starters, there's no difference between them and us. They're just like us. They're just like you. They wanted their right to have a voice. They wanted to speak. They wanted to be able to vote. They didn't want a dictatorship anymore, which is understandable because the family, the lineage of that family is evil, not good people. They wanted to be able to speak openly and freely in their own homes.
Yeah.
You know, something that even someone in my country was defending. Edward Snowden defended the Americans in that way. Okay, so it's very similar if you think of it. It's strange how similar it is.
That's
it's kind
true,
of freaky, actually. So the point is Syrians are no different than us.
Yeah.
No different than an Iranian American, than a Portuguese person. And that they want their right to be free, to do things like this.
Yeah.
They couldn't do this. They still can't do this without feeling like someone's going to come in and kill them. So imagine you and I right now, like, constantly, like,
Looking back.
you know, or, you know, like, imagine.
And how
Or
would you-
tomorrow, I'm dead.
Where do you think the solution lies? Like, what would you do if you ruled the world? How would you solve this?
Oof, I can't answer that. I don't want to rule the world. That's a big responsibility. And I don't want to rule. That's the thing. My view is very, I believe in one human race. That's my first belief. That one I would say. We're all one. We're all equal. And we should honor each other's differences. You know, like when you're speaking Portuguese, I can think, oh, I don't know what she's saying. Maybe it's bad. Or I can go, wow, that's such a beautiful language.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I wonder what similarities our languages have versus like feeling like fear
For
or
the common
discomfort.
ground.
I snuck inside Syria 4 times in 2013. Did immediate aid, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I was fundraising, and then like I would feed many people, and then that's it. You know, like
It's that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like 1 week later they're like, hello.
Fevers, yeah.
So we heard of a man in Tripoli who was educated. He'd gone to Damascus University, so he's an educated Syrian refugee. And there's kids that he had there, and he wanted to start a school, and he needed help. So Sama, she went there. We had fundraised money. She went there and helped establish the school. And when she arrived there, actually we thought there was a school. So this is the thing. Like, we were informed that there was already a school. Didn't seem that way when she arrived. So she had to do a lot more than we thought.
Yeah.
Made sure the school was there. It's the schools that we have 2 now, but it's a Lebanese property, so it's a Lebanese school that's used after hours.
Yeah, you told me the rent is insane. Right?
4,500 currently.
For after hours. One of your interviews that I heard you say, like, these kids, they are the future generation. There are millions that are outside of Syria, so if we don't educate them in the right way,
It's going to become a bigger
they have-
problem.
Yes, of course.
That was the conference last May.
Yes.
That's a
and-
big point that most people in the world don't understand, is we think it's just a Syrian issue.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. It's a world issue. It's a world crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis at large, because those kids, if we don't psychologically deal with the traumas that they've endured, there's going to be 100,000 more not so good people in the world.
How many Syrian refugees right now, like, outside of Syria? Like, I think like 5 million, right? Around that.
No. 13 million Syrian refugees that are IDPs, internally displaced.
Okay. Yeah,
8 million are out of the country.
Wow.
The last I
So-
checked, it's increasing
So
every
that
day.
means that all of those people
probably
will
more
be
than that.
part of our society.
Yes. and we could implement them on a great scale.
Yeah.
We can pick up their strengths and we can improve their weaknesses, and we can create a better world together.
Yeah. So that's what you're doing in your school.
I'm trying.
Right?
Yes, I'm trying.
And how do you? That was something that I thought it was really interesting when you told me that you're trying to build this like very democratic education, right? Like you wanted the kids to vote for the name of the school. So,
Yeah, it is a democratic approach, focused primarily on equality
Yeah.
and diversity and mutual respect, and to integrate the benefits of all the things, whether it's the cultural values, religious values, educational values, to bring them all together in a loving way. I even have trouble helping the school right now because they're refugees, they don't have papers, so how do I know they're not terrorists? This is the argument I have all the time, not just with people that donate, but with higher people in the U.S.
How do you answer to those people that are afraid of refugees because they think they might be terrorists?
I tell them, I show them pictures, and I humanize them. I make them real.
So
you
let's
know?
humanize them. So what was like the person that impacted you the most that you met there?
Ziad, this man, his name is Ziad. I stayed in his home my first time and every single time that I went.
In Syria?
Yeah, inside the south of Idlib.
Yeah.
He has a wife and 3 children. Then I think he has a newborn, so 4, but I wasn't around the 4th. And he treated me like I was his family, even though I wasn't. He was amazed when he met me. He's like, "You're not Muslim, you're not Syrian, why are you here?" And thank God I know one word in Arabic, and I said, because I believe in Allah, I believe in God, and I believe that we're family. You and I, we're family.
Yeah.
And he looked at me still very skeptical, and then this is what it came down to, and this is my like underlying principle and belief, is I said to him, I came here because if something were to happen where I live, in my family, with my mother, father, brother, sister, I have 3 nephews that I love, with my friends, with the people I love, I hope to God, to Allah, I hope to God, to the higher powers, whatever you want to call them. If you don't believe in God, you can call it Earth, universe, whatever, that someone from another place would see, hear, and come to serve and come to help. So I'll never be disconnected from that village in Syria, and I think about them, and I think about how one day maybe I will go back and help rebuild.
There was something you said and you got pretty emotional, and I got pretty emotional. You said, I want to be in those places nowhere else wants to be, because people there are just more alive than anywhere else in the world.
They are.
Why? Why is that? Because they have the threat of death every day.
The ego's pretty much non-existent or dead. It's there. I don't think that they're without ego, but it's very small. It's like the smallest the ego can ever get. Like, you know, gurus, Buddhists, meditative people, it's like that small. And so there's a sense of awareness of self, of emotion, of connection, of like quality time. I didn't learn this until inside Syria. They don't get on the phone. They don't have
still
phones.
manage to have good moments despite of all the pain and all
I don't
the
understand.
suffering.
It's incredible. It's like nothing I've ever seen in my life. Like literally bombs are falling, and we sit together around a meal that a woman just spent 3 hours making, bent over, uncomfortable, and we just eat with our hands and we connect with each other.
Did those silver linings feel like they were?
They're
worth,
huge,
like-
huge in those places. They're huge in those places. Like it's funny because I don't want to be the CEO for the Unseen. I hope that in 3 to 5 years I have enough funding that I can hire a team and take someone else to take my place, and I get to go be on the ground.
Yeah.
I went back. Then my first trip, the bomb fell near me, and I saw things. I came home, I cried, and I literally said, I have to help people like this.
What was your
Initial reaction?
no, like what moved you to go from California, probably where you could have a normal life, just be I don't know, whatever, and go to a place where you are so discomfortable, and you know that you are there and you are going to have to miss everything, but you still go. What is the
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. It's the best question actually, because I've asked myself. I don't know what it was. It's just I had to do it.
it's something on your heart?
Do you feel more alive there?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. It was the curiosity. It was my heart saying go, go, go. It was
No logic.
because I knew that this world is not just here. It's not just. I mean, look at where we are right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in like
We're
this.
so privileged.
It's so beautiful here. Look at the light. Look at the nature. We can go eat all these great things. We can go walk to the sea.
Yeah.
I mean, But I know that there is the opposite. If for this to exist, the opposite exists. Like
Yeah, like, do you believe that for us to have this, someone else needs to be on the other side? Like,
So I don't think that it has to have the opposite in order for this to
but
exist.
that's what happened.
But the way that we've been created thus far and up until now, the extremes are there so that we can learn some things.
yeah,
Okay? So yeah, I think the extremes are okay, and I hate to say that because that means I'm okay with certain things that are happening. Like, they're like, how does it feel to have a president that you have?
Yeah.
I don't like it, but it's necessary in some ways. So that the people that think that he's right can see that he's not right. So right now, those supporters of this man, I'm telling you, are going, what was I thinking?
yeah,
Okay, so this has to happen in some ways.
yeah,
So we have to have this thinking of like, this shouldn't be the case.
yeah.
But I don't think it has to remain this way.
What would
I
you
think
say?
that we start that we start bridging the gap
Yeah,
of these extremes, and we rise up together.
yeah,
So you can fundraise on your free time
yeah.
and purchase. Potentially, you can do this. Purchase tennis rackets and tennis balls,
Yeah.
and you can take off 1 week of your time instead of going on vacation to that amazing island that's in the south, Mallorca, Ibiza, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. Which I don't say don't go at all. You can
Yeah.
go to those places, but you can spend a week and you can go to a refugee camp
Yeah.
in Jordan, in Greece. There's many of them,
Yeah.
and you can spend a week teaching them how to play tennis. And it will not only, those kids will forever be impacted. They will never forget you.
Yeah.
They will, I'm gonna cry. They will never forget you. You will always be in their hearts. And you will teach them something that they will never forget. And you will connect with them on a level that they don't get to have. That's one thing. And I can give a longer list, but that's just one example.
Yeah. That's
It doesn't have to even be that. It could be, you can go and you could teach them writing. You can give them notebooks. You can, just be creative.
You touched the point there when you said you can still go to Mallorca and Ibiza, you know? Because one thing, when I read Angelina Jolie's book about going to helping with the crisis in Cambodia, and one thing she says is that when she came back and she had to go to this red carpet and she felt so out of place and so ridiculous, but at the same time, you know, it's still, you still have the right also to have your good moments. So how is that with you? Do you feel that when you go back to California? Do you feel in any kind of way like guilty or displaced? How do you deal with that?
So my first 2013,
Yeah.
oof. I didn't. I couldn't. I felt guilty. So much guilt. So I didn't. And I tortured myself. Intentionally, unintentionally, subconsciously, unconsciously, whatever. And then, one of my mentors, who I love, Sammy, said to me, how can you give from your cup if your cup is empty? And if you continue to deplete your cup, how can you do this work for the rest of your life?
Yeah, that's so true.
Do you really want to make an impact? Do you really want to do something sustainable? In order to do something sustainable for others, you have to sustain yourself.
How do you fill your cup?
Well, the first thing I said to you when I got here was, I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Before
please eat.
before I wouldn't have done that. So that's one example.
Yeah.
Learning how meditation and yoga.
Yeah. Well, we too. Yeah, we do.
Free yogis.
You know,
We're
yeah.
yoginis.
Being comfortable, wearing a comfortable attire when I can and when I need to.
Yeah.
2 days of the conference, I was dressed not professionally. Usually, I wouldn't do that. I'd wear the heels and put the makeup on and be uncomfortable, but now I don't. Because I have to take care of myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have to be who I am. So, just finding ways to check in with yourself, check in with your breath, check in with your heart. So what do I do instead? I helped the Skid Row homeless in LA in January. We fundraised and for the unseen, and I got the volunteers together and we all went. We gave hygiene bags out. Last year I helped homeless youth in Orange County. Orange County is one of the wealthiest cities in America.
We've watched the OC in New York.
I never have.
We did.
I'm so ashamed. I never have, but
You wouldn't like it, I think.
I'm sure, and it just shows you one part, by the way, because there's like 30,000 homeless kids in Orange County, which you don't know about.
Really?
I helped fundraise for them, so I try to do little things when I can.
One last question.
Okay.
Do you live like no one's watching?
Yeah.
That's our slogan. By the way.
Do I live like no one's watching? Yeah. No one's watching me right now. No one's. Yeah. I pick up trash. My boyfriend's always like looking at me. And then he starts doing it, I think, because I do it.
Oh, one more.
there's
Yeah. This was the one I asked, and you were like, "Oh yeah, well that's a little change." How does your family and your boyfriend and your friend, like, how do they deal with it when you go, like, and how do you deal with
It's very difficult.
with knowing that they're suffering because
So
they're worried about you?
2013, 14, I was single. So it was just my family and friends, and it was very difficult. My best friend and I, every time I left, we would have dinner, and she would cry. Every time. And I would have to sit there. She's like, I don't work without you. My sister was pregnant my first time I went inside. She would put her hand, take my hand on her belly, and she'd be like, you have to come back. Do you understand? He only has one auntie. And I'm like, okay, everyone calm down. So, like, that was hard. But I fell in love. And it changed everything. Because it's like, I feel like it's the other half of my heart. So when I'm leaving, I feel like half of me is coming. And I've never had this before until him.
And he's there in California.
Yeah, and then he struggled. It's hard. And half of him is like, go be a superhero. Don't go, stay here. I'm like,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's hard. It's a challenge. I'm human.
Yeah.
And I do have an ego, too. I don't know. I have it. And I am selfish.
Yeah.
I asked for this bowl before I wanted to interview. I was being
come on.
selfish.
You have
That was
vital needs.
selfish.
You're human.
But it's required, right? Because if I didn't do it, then maybe I would have been not as
Then
nice
your
during
cup
my
would be
interview.
empty.
I would have been a grumpy person sitting here.
Yeah.
So there's ways always to do things, and it's like it's a circle, what goes around comes around.
Yeah. That's a great way to end. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you guys. Thank you.